All right, what's up, everyone? Today we have Wukong, and we are on 1440p with the 5080. We are currently on the Gigabyte OC model, and we are running the latest NVIDIA drivers at the time of this recording. I'll have that listed down in the bottom left corner of the video, and at the top of the video, you'll see a black bar that will give you all of your relevant settings, and then let's get into it. So right now we're at low. And of course, we are leaving a lot to be desired in the texture department, but we are at 189 FPS here at 1440p. So let's just go ahead and move right along, go up through some more of these settings, and then introduce some ray tracing and frame gen and all that kind of stuff later on. You can, of course, skip ahead using the chapter markers if you'd like, and let's get into it. All right, so as you can see, everything is turned off. We're on the low preset. We're going to go ahead and apply those. And let's just keep going. Now, the difference between medium and low is pretty big. Medium brings in a lot more texture. So you're going to see your biggest performance hit going from low to medium. And then medium up through cinematic is a little bit more incremental, but still worth noting that that is going to be your biggest jump. Low is for very, very, very low spec PCs, I believe. So it's good that they added that in there, but as a owner of a 5080, you probably want to have a little bit more visual fidelity. So let's just keep going with the rest of the test here. We're just going to jump up to the very next preset and go through all of it here today. We're going to go up there, go to high. So this would be high. And as you can see, we are at, once everything gets caught up, there we go. Sometimes when you change settings, it stutters a little bit, but that's not normal. All right, so 108, 109 FPS, and of course our allocated video memory is up there. Our VRAM is right at 7.9, so we're looking okay on VRAM, and we're going to use that later on whenever we do some frame generation. I have noticed a little bit of stutters in this area. That's kind of unfortunate, but yeah, it's a little bit stuttery. You just have these kind of like hard hang-ups. But once you introduce some frame generation, it tends to smooth all that out. Just the nature of frame generation, it does tend to get rid of these little hangs and snags a little bit more often than not. All right, so let's just come over here. I'm stuck on a tree. Get over here and take a look at this little corridor with some water running. Looks pretty nice. All right, there's another stutter. All right, so let's just keep going. All right, there we go down to graphics, and let's turn on the very high preset. And in this area, we're going to drop down to the, let's see, it should be about high 80s. Yeah, high 80s. And of course, our VRAM is 7.7 with a utilization of 6.1. No spill, and our SRAM, system RAM, is at 16.8 gigs. Everything looks pretty good, though. I mean, this is going to be a nice running title, especially at this resolution, without the need for a ton of DLSS and frame generation and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not into that, the 5080 should provide a pretty good experience without the need for all of those different technologies. All right, so let's just keep on going. Let's go up to cinematic. That'll be the next little section of the test here. Go ahead and apply that. This will be cinematic, and that brings us just under 70, 69, 68 FPS. Now this is no ray tracing and no upscaling, so it is performing very well at 1440 without the need again for any sort of resolution scaling or frame generation or anything like that. So right now, you wouldn't even really have to do a quality upscale. You could frame generate directly from native, because your frames are, in the high 70s and 80s, and on a game like this, you don't really need any sort of upscaling if you're not into the ray tracing. That's more of like if you're into ray tracing, which we'll test that later. Again, this will be a pretty thorough test, so just kind of hang on. And if you're into this kind of thing, please, I humbly ask you to subscribe. That is the biggest thing you can do to help me out and help me keep making these. All right, so 70 FPS, and let's just go on into the next section here. And the next section would be to just introduce a little bit of quality upscaling. So we're going to go to that 67. That's that magic number for a quality upscale. And that brings us back up into the 80s, high 70s. All right, so not a huge difference, and I will say that native definitely looked a little bit sharper. Sometimes on 4K it can look better when you go to quality, but at these lower resolutions, it is upscaling from a slightly lower resolution than you would be at a native 4K panel. So just keep that in mind. You know, at 4K, you definitely can use DLSS a little bit more liberally, but at these lower resolutions, it tends to degrade a bit faster just because you're going way down in that base resolution, more so than you would at 4K. All right, so 80, 82, 81, everything looks pretty good though. I mean, let's just see what we can do as far as a balanced preset goes. So balance would be a 58 on our super resolution here, and that's going to give us 90 FPS, just under it. And of course, it still looks almost, it actually still looks just as sharp as quality did, but it's giving you a little bit more performance. And, you know, you might need this when we go into ray tracing. We'll just have to see. Because right now we're pretty performant without any sort of frame generation being utilized at all right now. All right, so let's go on down to the next DLSS setting, which would be just a straight 50, which is a performance preset. And this will give us about 100, 103 FPS. It is a slight bit softer, just a tad bit. So if you're already using DLSS, you're going to already take that like little tiny bit of quality hit anyway. So if you really wanted to, you know, go down into the performance setting, you're not really going to be degrading that much more than say at a quality or balanced. It still looks pretty good. You know, it is slightly softer than balanced and quality, but it is still totally acceptable. I think this would be fine, especially once we get into the ray tracing. And for folks who really just don't want to use any sort of frame generation, there are people out there that just don't like it. But in this case, we're just going to test all of it. That way you can make your own informed decision, because all this stuff is extremely personal. That's why I just try to go through every possible setting I can that someone would more than likely use. All right, so let's just go on over to frame generation. And let's see here. So say you are at a 67. And we're going to frame generate. We're going to go to that 2x. So this would be quality with 2x frame generation. And, you know, of course, you are not doing any sort of upscaling beyond quality. So this is 153, 143. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. So quality with 2x looks nice, and it's 165 FPS. So I don't think that there's anything you can really complain about a game like this that is more story driven anyway. Let's see what native does. Let's just go on up to that next, let's just remove the DLSS altogether, go to basically what is a DLAA setting. And that's going to drop us down to about 120 FPS, which is super acceptable. If you've got a 120 refresh panel at 1440p, yeah, you're on native with a 2x frame generation. This looks phenomenally good. I think that this would be an awesome way to play it if you're on a 1440p high refresh panel, and then just take it on up to, you know, however many frames you want to generate, because at this base frame rate, which I believe was over 60, you're not going to really notice any kind of ghosting or anything like that. Everything's going to be looking pretty good. So yeah, frame generation makes a good situation better. It can't fix a bad situation. So if you're on 23 FPS, you might be able to frame generate to 80, but it's going to be really bad. You're not going to like playing it that way. All right, so let's just keep on going, and we're going to go back down and check out what the 2x looks like on our other presets here. So this would be a balanced preset on the DLSS. All right, so that gives us 55, 56 FPS. So, or 156, not 56, yeah, 157, and our VRAM allocation looks pretty good. This game is actually pretty light on VRAM usage. I have noticed that it manages it pretty well. Some games just eat up as much as they can, but this is one that really does seem to not demand a ton of VRAM like some other games. You know, this looks really good. It's nice and smooth. Really enabling that frame generation has all but eliminated any sort of occasional hang-ups or snags that I was experiencing. But let's just come over here and turn on the very next level and go down to that 50% DLSS with that frame generation on 2x turned on. All right, so that gives us about 150 FPS here. So you could frame generate up to 150 and then cap it at maybe 144, something like that, depending on what your monitor does at 1440. Just trying to think of all the different, possible ways you could play this. And of course, you could go up 3x, 4x, and that's just a simple game of math at this point. You could check out what it looks like here. We're just going to go up to 3x, apply that. So there you go. You're at 220 FPS on this performance DLSS preset here. And let's go on over and let's work our way back up through at 3x. We're just going to do it all. We got time. Why not? Let's just check it out. All right, let's go up to 58. So this would be a balanced preset with 3x frame generation. Again, this is at the full cinematic preset, and we're utilizing DLSS with 2x or 3x frame generation. I'm sorry, this is a 3x frame generation setting here. I'm going to go over here, check out this. No ray tracing yet. We're going to check that out later on in the video. This will be a pretty long video, so make sure you use your chapter markers and check out anything that you want to check out using the black bar at the top. That'll give you a little bit better view. Of course, I've got the NVIDIA driver listed in the bottom left corner. So as this video ages, you'll know what it was, what driver I was using when I shot this video. All right. So let's see. Let's just keep going up. So we're going to go up through the next preset here, which would be 67. This would give us a quality upscale with 3x frame generation, and we are looking at 205, 214. Our allocated VRAM is right at 8.1. Usage is 6.5. Everything looks nice and smooth. This is a really nice running game with these settings, for sure. Of course, ray tracing will tank our FPS quite a bit, but we're going to figure out how we can play with some ray tracing later on in the video. And again, if you like this kind of stuff, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. And let's just keep going on to the very next section here. I'm going to go over to full-blown native 3x. So this is 3x native, super sharp. Man, native really looks good in this game. It gets rid of all the slight fuzziness. I really hate when a game starts to look fuzzy with DLSS. But yeah, you could play 100%. Really nice frames here, almost 200 FPS at 3x frame gen at native 1440p. All right, so let's see what 4x does. Let's just keep going through here and check it out. All right, we're going to go up to 4x. This is, again, we're going to stay at native. We're going to go up to 4x. This is 212, 210, 205, 199. Our allocated VRAM is at 8.5. using about 7. It usually likes to snag over here on this little area, but as you can see with that frame generation, it seems like it's doing pretty well. It's not snagging on us at all. I'm going to run through this little section here. Check out some more of it. There's a little bit of a hang up. Lighting looks really good even without ray tracing on. All right, so that's 4x. Let's go down to the very next level, which would be back down to that 67, which is a quality upscale, and we are at 249 FPS. That gave us a good bit back. If you really just want to play at some absurd frames, this card will absolutely do it for you at 1440. Yeah, so let's just keep on going through here. I think I've cleared out most of these guys in this area. I've been through this section a few times. A little bit more stutters. Even with that frame gen on, you can still feel them. All right. Just keep on going through here. All right, so the next level would be, let's check it out. What do we need to do next? All right, let's see here. Go down to graphics. All right, we're going to go down to that 58, which would be a balanced preset or a balanced setting. I say preset even though I'm doing it. 240, 258, 260. Yeah, so 260 looks really nice and smooth. Everything looks beautiful. Of course, without any ray tracing, this game is still really pretty. And once we turn that ray tracing on, we're probably going to start using a lot more of these different technologies that we have here. All right. So let's just keep on going. Let's go down to the next setting, which would be a performance preset. This is actually what the game recommends you play on. And for a lot of reasons, you know, I could kind of see why. It does look just as good to me as a quality upscale, but you get a lot more performance out of it. So just going to run over here. Ooh, big stutter right there. I'm not sure why this game does that. Just in certain areas, it's just like very stuttery. Go ahead and wipe these dudes out. This guy's like super annoying with the little arrows here. There we go. Let's knock him out. All right, so let's just check this out up here. So we're at 270. So really respectable performance here. 270 FPS is quite nice. All right, so what if we turn on some ray tracing? Now, what I'll do is I'm going to max all this back out. I'm going to bring this back down to off, turn that off. That's like a reflex thing. I turn that off because it does affect performance. And we're going to go down to a low preset, and we're going to just leave. Let's go down to high. We'll test from high and then kind of go through everything else. So I'm going to apply that. It's going to ask me to restart. I'm going to do that and come right back. All right, we're back here. I have actually put the preset back to low, just so you can see what we're working with here. So this is low ray tracing with a low preset, no frame generation, and no upscaling. So right now, you know, it doesn't really look that great. I just wanted to kind of give you what the best case scenario would be whenever you do implement that ray tracing. So we're just going to go over and we're going to bring our preset back up. So we're going to bring our preset back up to medium and see what it does there. So right now we're at 72. I'm not sure if that actually applied. Let me double check. Just making sure. Never hurts to make sure. Okay, yeah, it did. All right, so yeah, we're at 75 FPS. This is again with a low ray tracing preset, and we're still above 60. So it looks pretty good. We can definitely play like this, although medium looks okay. You know, I mean, and low ray tracing with no upscaling and no frame generation. I'm not quite sure how many people would really want to play this way, but for what it's worth, I want to show everything I can in this particular walkthrough, because this game has a lot of settings and they do respond well to testing. So I'm going to bring this back up. I'll go ahead and apply that. We're on high now, which is originally where I was kind of thinking we'd be about 60. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was thinking we would be hitting about the 60 mark, and we're right at it, so 58. All right, so this is a high preset, and our DLSS is set to 100%, so DLAA, no frame generation, and our ray tracing is set to low. So we have low ray tracing enabled right now. All right, so let's just keep on going through here. I'm just going to go up through the rest of these presets here, give you guys just like the most thorough test I can think of. So this is very high, and right now we are still right around 60. We're dipping below it just a little bit because, you know, that ray tracing does just really eat up some resources. Check out our VRAM allocation. It's at 9.2 with a 7.4 usage. All right, but our system RAM is hanging around 16 gigs. So there's 32 in this system, so we're okay there. That's a typical setup, is a 32 gigabyte system RAM, so you should be okay. All right, so let's just keep on going. Again, this is just with the low ray tracing. I say this a lot because people do skip around, and I try to repeat myself a little bit just to make sure that people aren't missing anything. All right, so this is about 53 FPS, 50 FPS. So we're just going to go up here, and then we'll start over on our medium ray tracing and show what that looks like. And then we'll go on to some upscaling and kind of find out what like a best setting would kind of look like. This is going to be pretty thorough, so definitely use the chapter markers to make sure you're getting the information you're looking for. All right, so this is 60 FPS here. So we're just going to come down here, drop it down to that low again, and then go back up to medium. I'm going to apply that. So this is a low preset with a medium ray tracing, and that gives us about 70. Looking pretty shitey though, not really great on the description here, but yeah, that's about what it looks like. It looks pretty bad. The textures are crazy flat. But once we go up to that next setting, which would be medium, we're going to get back a lot of those textures. All right, so let's go and apply that. And they look a lot better. You got some more ground scatter. Some of these things are going to pop in here soon, but we're still around 68, 65, 64 with that ray tracing set to medium. And this is a medium. This is a medium preset. So medium ray tracing, medium preset. Again, no upscaling or frame generation at all. And it looks like we could stand to do a little bit more in the graphics department. So let's just bring that back up. And a high preset with medium ray tracing looks like about 56 FPS with an allocated VRAM of 9.1, usage at 7.4. Again, this whole test is going to be at 1440. That's a pretty popular resolution. And a lot of folks would rather just play at 1440 and just max everything out. So you can, do that with the 5080 for sure. You don't really have to use too many concessions when you've got a card this powerful at 1440. But anyway, I digress. Let's just keep going and check out some more of the test here. So we're going to go back down to graphics, check out this preset. We're going to go up to very high. Again, leaving everything else alone. Ray tracing is still on that medium preset, and everything else looks like it looks pretty good. We're at 56, 55 FPS, 53 in this area. Just going to run down here, kind of go back and forth just to get some environmental stuff to load back in and see how we're looking as far as all these different settings can go. Again, I test it all as much as I can so that you can get the information and then make your own decision if this card at this resolution on this game is right for you. This is totally informative. And just so you know that I'm not making any recommendations. I'm gonna always do a thing at the end how I would play it, and that does not necessarily mean that's the right way. That's just how I would do it. All right, so let's go on to the very next one. All right, let's go down to cinematic. All right, so this cinematic ray tracing set to medium, and there is our very first real hit to our frame rate. We're struggling to stay over 50. All right, so that's kind of where the break point would be at, in my opinion. So this is a cinematic with a ray tracing set to medium. All right, so 48, 47 FPS. We're almost cracking over 8 gigs of used VRAM on this setting, so just keep that in mind. Although this card has 16, there's quite a few cards out there that are still rocking 8 or 12. So, if you're looking at this from the perspective of VRAM usage, this game does handle VRAM usage fairly well, in my opinion, just based on like all the dozens and dozens of games that I've done at this point. This game does handle VRAM quite well and manages it nicely. All right, so what will be the next setting we need to check out? So let's go down here. So this is no DLSS. Let's go up to very high, which is the highest, and then we're going to go back down to low preset, and we're going to work through these. All right, so this gives us 50. So as you can see, that ray tracing really takes a chomp out of our performance because this is a low preset, and we're still at 45, 44 FPS here. Definitely not how you want to play it. You're going to need some DLSS to get us over that hump and make it a nice experience, especially as we go up through these presets. All right, so let's just keep on going. I'm going to go down to graphics, go down here to medium. All right, so this is medium. This is when that detail starts to come back in. It starts to look a lot better. We're at 47 FPS and 45 FPS, so we're at allocating 9.8 gigs using 7.8 on this particular setting. And we are at 48, 50 FPS. All right, let's just keep on going. Again, all this is at native still. We're not using any kind of upscaling technology at all at the moment, just to get a good, solid, well-rounded test on this game. I feel like this game is becoming one of the newer benchmarks, this and probably Cyberpunk, as far as like really testing out what a GPU is capable of. All right, so at 40, we're at 42, 41 FPS here. And again, we're not doing any sort of upscaling at all. Let's just keep going. So 38, 39, So ray tracing really does take a huge bite out of your performance. That's just kind of the nature of ray tracing. This at very high is totally maxed out. This is the highest it can go on this particular title. All right, but look at it. I mean, that is beautiful water right there. I love the way ray tracing makes this game look sometimes. It's not like the biggest difference like, say, Cyberpunk would be, but it does have its moments where ray tracing does, really shine. All right, so let's just keep going to the very next preset. Coming down here to graphics, and we're going to go to very high. This is a very high preset with very high ray tracing. So we are at 35 FPS here at native resolution at 1440. It's not a rough experience. The frame time graph looks okay, but you definitely want a little bit better than 42 or 43 FPS on this title. Although it is very playable, especially on a controller. I really like to see 60 no matter what. Even if it takes a little bit of frame gen, we can still get it up over 60 if you're close enough. I like to frame gen from at least 50, 55, 60 is ideal, but sometimes it's just not the case. All right, so let's just keep going here, and we're going to jump over to the very next preset, which will be cinematic, and that is really going to tank us. Sorry, I've been talking a very long time, and I really need some water, but I'm trying to get through this test, so bear with me. 38 FPS, 37 FPS here on cinematic with full ray tracing and no DLSS help whatsoever. All right, so right now we could probably say, let's introduce some DLSS and let's see what we can do there. Let's see if we can make this work and then get it over 60, and then we can turn on some frame generation and really have a nice playable experience with all of the fidelity of a game like this that this has to offer. All right, so let's just come over here, leave everything else alone. So this is cinematic, and we're going to bring in just some simple quality upscale and see if that at least gets us over 60. It does. All right, so a quality upscale that is far smoother. That feels so much better. We are at 61, 62, 65. Looks really nice, and of course you could throw frame generation on top of this and have a really high refresh experience with a lot of detail. I will say that quality upscaling tends to look just as good as native in most scenarios. So let's just keep going and see what a balanced preset would give us. We're just going to bring this to 58, and that will give us a balanced upscale, and that gets us to mid 70s, low 70s actually, low 70s. I spoke too soon. There it goes. Okay, so it does go up to about mid 70s, and looks just as good as quality in my opinion. This is a really nice way to play it as well without even messing with frame generation. You don't even really need it, but you can absolutely crank everything out to the max at 1440, utilizing just a little bit of that DLSS. All right, so let's just come over here and turn on some more DLSS. We're going to go to that recommended performance setting. Now, performance does look exceptionally good. This is DLSS 4. It looks just as good as quality did on DLSS 3. I almost see no difference whatsoever between all these different levels of DLSS other than just my frame rate going up, which is a good thing. Now in this area, we do have, some stuff running by, and there's a little bit going on. This isn't a full comprehensive experience of what you would get on every single aspect of the entire game. So what I like to do is take some of these areas and just give myself a little bit of headroom, a little bit of insurance, so that, if I go through the game and there's a little bit harder to run area, I don't have to constantly adjust my settings. So right now we're at, 90 FPS here, and this is probably a really good setting for most people. Although how I would probably play it, I would definitely use some frame generation, but since quality DLSS was over 60, I'm just going to come back here. This is kind of going to be the end of the video. And now that we've seen everything we can see, I would use that DLSS quality, and I would turn on that frame generation. I'm just going to see what 2x looks like. 2x was, is a pretty good starting point. And yeah, this feels really good. We're at 115 FPS. We are utilizing some VRAM, but we've got plenty of it. So our VRAM allocation is 10.2 with a utilization of 8.2. We got 16 on this card, so no worries there at all. Your frame generation is going to utilize some VRAM. That's, you know, kind of one of its core functions, is it grabs whatever VRAM is left and performs its calculations with that, you know, much faster memory. But, you know, if you have no VRAM left at all, it'll say that it's doing it, but nothing's going to happen. So, you know, it's really good to have a nice experience and then frame generate with a little bit of VRAM left over. And in this case, of course, we've got plenty. All right, so let's just go up to that very next level. I'm going to go to 3x, apply that, of course, and that gives us 150 FPS. And this is, of course, cinematic with ray tracing set to very high, which is the highest you can get, with a 3x frame generation and at 1440p. And this is a phenomenal experience. Everything is nice and smooth. Nothing's hitching or, you know, snagging or anything like that. I think that what you were seeing in the beginning was, you know, without frame generation. I think frame generation just naturally smooths that kind of stuff out. And it feels really nice, really smooth. All right. So let's go up to 4x. This is absolutely how it would play. You know, I'm a sucker for high refresh and visuals. So this is like best of both worlds. 204. So on this particular game, I could go a little bit lower because my panel is a 240 hertz refresh. So I would definitely need to use that 4x frame generation. And then without giving up my ray tracing, I would probably just crank down a little bit of the presets. So I'm going to do that now and see if I can get over 240, which is my refresh on this panel. So just come down here and go to graphics. This is, again, just kind of how I might play it. Actually, let's just do this. I would like to try some upscaling first to see if that does it. All right, so 230, 220, not quite, almost though. There it is, 240. I mean, I would probably say this is fine without having to go down to performance. Although if I went to performance, I would absolutely be able to crank everything all the way out to the max and then use performance DLSS to hit the refresh of my panel. So this is why I say it's totally personal. Some people don't have a 240 hertz refresh. They might have 144, and that's all they're trying to do. So I kind of like to show you everything. All right, so come down here and go down to that performance preset. And there you go. I'm well over my 240 hertz refresh. I could come in here and use something like Rivatuner and just apply a hard cap. That way I have a super nice fluid 240 hertz with everything completely maxed out at 1440. All right, so that is going to wrap it up. I'm going to go get me some water because I've talked forever. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, hit the like, share, all that kind of social media stuff would be helpful. And yeah, drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you see anything I can improve, please let me know. And we'll see you in the very next one. Peace.